Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Professor Mearsheimer, if I could start with you, do you think an Iran with nuclear weapons could actually bring more stability to the region? And if so, how?
I think there's no question that a nuclear-armed Iran would make the Middle East more stable. The fact is that nuclear weapons are weapons of mass destruction. And any country that has nuclear weapons is not likely to be attacked. So we have a situation today where both the United States and Israel are threatening to attack Iran. If Iran had nuclear weapons, they would not be threatening to attack Iran, and that would make the region more peaceful. Second, it's very important to emphasize that nuclear weapons have little offensive military capability. In fact, I would argue they have virtually no offensive military capability. So if Iran had nuclear weapons, it would not be using those weapons against other countries, and therefore the region would be much more peaceful, which is not to say you could never have a war involving Iran, but it would be much more peaceful.
Okay, Dov Zakheim, let me put that point to you as well. An Iran with nuclear weapons will bring stability to the region.
Absolutely not. More countries other than Israel would want to develop nuclear weapons. No policymaker, nowhere, would ever believe that a country that is either an enemy or is potentially hostile or has major issues with that policymaker's country is to be trusted with a nuclear weapon. And so what will happen? Saudis, Egyptians, Turks, Emirates, they all could and probably would develop nuclear weapons. Now you have to say, trust me, that no one will make a mistake.
But the idea of a nuclear arms race, I mean, is there historical precedent for that? I mean, look at Iran, Pakistan and India. I mean, we didn't see Bangladesh, Sri Lanka going after nuclear weapons after they became armed.
No, that's true, in part because Bangladesh and Sri Lanka didn't have the wherewithal. The Emirates do, the Saudis do, the Turks do. The Egyptians actually, at one point, were thinking about it. So we're in a very different situation here. That's number one. Number two is, it's true that no two countries have gone to nuclear war, but are you willing to bet they never will? Do you want to create longer odds, which you would do if there are more countries with nuclear weapons?
John Mearsheimer, I mean, you were about to make a point there, but let me just ask you a question. It seems that it would ratchet up the tension, wouldn't it, if both sides have nuclear weapons, Israel and Iran?
It might ratchet up the tensions. I don't think it will, but the question is, can either one of those states attack the other state without ending up getting annihilated? And the answer is no. We called this mutual assured destruction during the Cold War. And therefore, if both Iran and Israel have nuclear weapons, they have absolutely no incentive to go to war with each other, certainly to attack each other, and therefore relations between the two countries are likely to be much more peaceful. If Iran doesn't have nuclear weapons, the United States and Israel are much more likely to attack it. But I want to say a word about proliferation. The ideal case to look at is North Korea. North Korea acquired nuclear weapons. Japan did not. South Korea did not, and Taiwan did not. All three of those countries have, for sure, the capability to do so. So it is not guaranteed that if Iran acquires nuclear weapons, its other neighbors will. But even if they do, the question you have to ask yourself is, what are the consequences? It is extremely unlikely, can't be completely ruled out, but it's extremely unlikely that any of those countries would use nuclear weapons against each other, and highly unlikely that they'd fight a conventional war.
That's the point you just said there. It can't be completely ruled out, and Dov Zakheim, that's the point you're making as well,
exactly.
Isn't it? That there is a risk. With more weapons in the world, there is a risk that something could go wrong.
Taiwan toyed with the idea of nuclear weapons in the 60s. We dissuaded them. In the 70s, we dissuaded them. South Korea in 75, we had to really press them not to go ahead. Japan, everybody knows that is one of the major reasons why we provide a nuclear umbrella for Japan. Would we provide a nuclear umbrella for every country in the Middle East? It would, in effect, dilute the credibility of that umbrella, because the question that would be asked is, would we trade Los Angeles for, say, Dubai? And I don't think the people in Dubai would believe it, much less the people in Los Angeles.
Okay, gentlemen, we're running out of time, but in 5 seconds, Dov Zakheim, do existing nuclear powers have the right to tell other countries whether they should have nuclear weapons or not? Yes or no?
The Non-Proliferation Treaty clearly says yes, but that doesn't mean that every country will comply.
Okay, and John Mearsheimer, the same question to you. Do existing powers have the right to say to other countries they should have nuclear weapons or not?
I think the whole concept of rights is meaningless. I think from an Iranian point of view, given the fact that the United States and Israel are threatening to attack it, it makes eminently good sense for Iran to acquire nuclear weapons of its own. It's not in America's interest and it's not in Israel's interest, but I do think it's in Iran's interest, given the threats that it faces, to acquire nuclear weapons for the same reason that the United States and Israel have nuclear deterrence.
Fascinating stuff. We're going to have to leave it there, but gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you.